My name technically is Frank Clark Woodruff Rogers, but I don't mean to eliminate the Clarks. To shorten the name up, I go by Frank Woodruff Rogers, okay? I was born in 1933. In a couple of months, I'll be 89. Same age as Walter, really. Although I want to be a little older than Walter when I go, if you don't mind. We start off in Matthew Woodruff is my earliest relative in the United States. Well, in the current United States, I don't know what they called it then. He came he came from England. He came to this country with Thomas Hooker in 1633, and with him to Hartford in 1636. From there he went to Farmington in 1640 through 1641. And from there he moved down to North Milford. Now, in 1938 was a hurricane in here in Connecticut. Worst hurricane they've had worst one they've ever had. I was age 5 then. Our dog refused to come inside the house because he was an outside dog, so we couldn't drag him in the house out of the hurricane, so we went under the porch and did very well. In first grade, age 6, I invited myself to Walter Besputa's house after school. I neglect that age. I just didn't even think that I should tell my folks what I was going to do, so I didn't. And I didn't do it purposely. It just happened that way. And when Walter took me back home, Walter's father, around supper time, there was panic. They were looking all over me all afternoon, having all these workers look for me in ponds and where I could have been killed or what happened. So they were pleasantly surprised that I just came home. My grandfather, Frank Woodruff, grandfather, what was his name? Frank Woodruff, right?
Frank C. Woodruff.
Frank C. Woodruff, yeah.
Yep.
Ran a very successful farm in Orange, and we had lots of workers, since it was Depression time, from the Middle Eastern, Middle European countries, Czechoslovakia, Ukraine, and a little bit of Russia, and what have you, to work the farm. And they were happy to have a place to live and enough money to live on. So consequently, we were really very well off in the Depression. I had 5 brothers and sisters, and we were lucky enough to get, my mother was lucky enough to get a maid to come around and kind of keep us in order during the day. And in 2nd grade, my first girlfriend was Cynthia Coolidge, granddaughter of President Coolidge. She and I were the tallest in the class here at Orange Center School. And we got along very well, and did in later years too. President Coolidge's son lived up on Orange Center Road, up on the hill there. And during World War II, just prior to World War II, when was World War II? What year?
45, I think, 1945. It's in that era.
I think Pearl Harbor was in 1942.
Okay, well, actually, it was Pearl Harbor time. a lot of people in England sent their daughters over here to escape their bombing over there in London. And I remember playing down the hill from the Coolidge's house, Ring Around the Rosie with all these girls, because they were, sent here for safety from World War II bombing. My grandfather had Frank Woodruff had a winter home over in New Haven on Dwight Street, which he lived in during the winter time. In the summertime, he moved here to Orange, a little house on Orange Center Road, which is existing still. So it could be with the farmers and the farm. Then I skip over to age 19 at that point, when I was drafted into the Korean War. About 15 of us were the first 19-year-olds to be drafted in the New Haven area, and we got our picture on the front page of the Register. And off I went to the Korean War. From there, I had been going to the University of Virginia prior to being drafted. And I then, when I got, first I was stationed in New York City and then in Germany. And when I got back, I attended Columbia University. Let me see, what happened to me after that? I guess I started really selling real estate one summer for an outfit in our shopping center. And I was very good at it. So I didn't go back to college, and I was an instant success at it. And I've sold a ton of houses. And being a good Yankee, I just didn't want to split my earnings with another broker whom I worked for. So I went into business for myself a little early and thoroughly enjoyed it. What else can I tell you about?
Can you tell us about the seed farm and what your family did as far as raising the seed corn?
Yes.
Storing it and selling it?
Yeah, during the, my great-grandfather started the seeds company, and he was always a farmer. All right, let's put it this way. And he married his wife, and a few days later, he went off to the Civil War with the New Haven regiment. There were 800 people in that regiment. And when he finally came back, he was one of 3 survivors. All 800 members of that unit were lost in action to the Civil War. And when he came back, he started this seed business and did very well at it. And I have an article here you can read about all those episodes. And he went to, I know he went in 19, I forget what year, but he went out to San Francisco to the reunion of all the soldiers of the GAR, Grand Army of the Republic. What did I leave out, Brian? I left out the shopping center here, I guess.
Let's finish up. Can we finish up with the seed company?
Yes, ma'am.
You had, a lot of the farmers were growing produce that you were able to get the seeds from?
Yes, we farmed out a lot of that, yes.
Okay.
And as far away as Yakima Valley in California. What state of Yakima Valley is in?
Washington State, yeah.
Washington.
So all of that seed would come come here to Orange, Connecticut?
Yeah, we would buy the seed. We would give them the seed to grow, the seed corn to grow, or the seeds to grow, and we would pay them for growing it and harvesting it for us and sending it over here. And then we would sell it from the Orange location. They also had a warehouse on Dye Street in New York City, which they owned and bought. And they used to do a lot of selling their potatoes and the vegetables to the hospitals in New York. But that was very good until the Democratic Party, well, that's true, it was the Democratic bosses down there got in and took the business away and took it for themselves with their own form of politics, strong-arm politics. So we quit the New York City business, but continued on in Orange here through many years and many successful years. In I believe it was 65, when was that fire, Brian?
I don't have the exact date. I believe that was in the 50s because you said you were about 15 years old.
Okay, yeah, in mid-50s. There's a picture of the house here, which I can show you. It burned down, and it was then they asked the town, what do you want to put there? And so they ended up putting apartments there on Old Grassy Hill Road, which many of you are aware of. It was the only apartment building in town for many years.
And regarding Stiles, he was also extremely instrumental in the Orange Congregational Church separating from the Milford Church.
Yes.
Relative? Okay.
There's a picture of my grandfather here, Frank. Yes, I'll get that, yeah.
Oh, that.
He was actually a member of the Union League Club in New Haven. He was president of the Union League Club in 1932. The location where the shopping center is now was where the first fire department building was located and originated. And they took over the
Did they take over the train station down there?
They took over the train station and converted it to a little fire department. And there's a picture of that here.
That's on the post road?
No, this is the.
Orange Center Road,
the
Orange Center Road.
Uh-huh.
And we also had there a railroad crossing and a railroad siding to a huge barn we had. It ended up being used as a fertilizer plant, and they would make fertilizer and put it on the railroad cars in their little turnoff there and send it on to its ultimate destination.
So what year was that?
That was probably in
Late 1800s, I think.
late 1800s.
And Frank, who owned the fertilizer plant? Who ran that, do you know? Because I don't.
A fellow by the name of Ross ran it.
Oh, okay.
Ross.
Huh.
And then later on, after the fertilizer business expired, this is the building here, the barn, three-story barn. We went into the post office department. That was the first post office. No, well, not the first post office in town. The first post office in town was across the street, the Scobie's store, Scobie's General Store. And we went into the post office. And luckily for me, as back in the 70s, or I think 60s or 70s. We built a building for the post office, and they're renting where the current bank is now, People's Bank. Well, was People's Bank, and now it's going to be a different bank because they just sold. People's had sold their whole business to this bank out of New York State.
Frank, with that building that you have in your hand, you're showing us now, I understand that you're finding some pieces of that building still part of the shopping center that is in existence today. Is that correct?
You got a good memory there, done some good investment. Yes, we tore this down and removed all the huge beams in there. They were about 2.5 inches wide by well over X number of feet. Very, very strong beams, and we put it in the new shopping center there. And we reused most of the lumber in this barn and building the stores over there. We have 10 or 11 stores over there in the current shopping center. And I was instrumental back in the 60s of getting, going with another fellow from Orange, who was the vice president of People's Bank, going down to Bridgeport and convincing People's Bank to open up a branch in Orange. And that was the first, and they agreed to it, and we rented them what was the old post office. We rented them the building over there for their first location outside of Fairfield County. They were the first. They were the first bank to leave Fairfield County, not to leave, but to branch out into Connecticut. And I think they started paying $250 a month for that rent, which was terrible, but was probably market price in the day. I don't want to tell you how much rent they're paying now, but they're paying the market price, which is pretty good. What have I left out, girls and boys?
I love the fact that you're coming back and you're finding pieces of the original wood from the barns, because a lot of people don't realize back in the day, you wouldn't throw away things. You wouldn't throw away a barn. You wouldn't just, trash it. We would reuse it. And I think that's what really makes it, fantastic. Look at that.
Here's an old seed bag from S.T.
Yes,
Woodruff Seeds.
Fantastic. Wow. That is amazing.
And they sold seed all over the United States.
Very, very cool. It's quite a legacy, Frank.
So
It really is.
that, I don't know what the hell this is. Oh, this is a cover or something. That.
You obviously, luckily, hung on to a lot of these wonderful things.
Yes,
You can't
right.
find anymore. And
That's right.
once they're gone, they're gone. So thank you for doing that. And I think we'll look forward to,
There's a great article in the New Haven Register back in 1972, telling about the seed company and showing this house in the background here.
and some young man up by the corn stalks, I see.
Yeah, that's a nice guy up there pulling the corn stalks so that the hybrid seed could be made.
Wow.
And here's a picture of the house that I currently live in too. And here's in the old seed barn which burned down. And when did that burn down, Brian? Back in
50s, I think.
the 50s.
They said they could see the flames from Waterbury.
That was quite a fire.
So
Tell us about hybrid seed. I don't think, people understand that corn really changed from, as we called cow corn, silage, to sweet corn that they now buy in the grocery stores and hopefully at the local stands. how did that come about?
Well, actually, it was by the Connecticut Experimental Station out in Hampton got going on that with my father. And this is how we got into the hybrid seed corn business. What you do is you take a corn plant that you like, a strong plant, and you detassel it so that you don't get the same corn plant that you had there, and let this another form of corn mix with it, so as you had a mixed corn, what we call a hybrid corn, hybrid seed, or hybrid corn. So you got a better piece of corn on the cob that got the best qualities from the marriage of the two types of corn. And so when it goes. And it's going on today.
Right, and the hybrid would take, again, you'd have to plant that marriaged corn the next year and hope that you get that better variety that you're shooting
Right,
for.
which they do a lot of now.
Excellent. Great.
Oh,
Any other silly stories besides your silly story of walking at the age of 5 all the way to Walt Besputa's house?
No, I took the bus on Winkle's bus.
Oh, and then you got off at Walt Besputa's.
Yeah, with Walter. And,
Oh, okay. That makes me feel better.
and
That's a long walk.
his father, I helped him with his chores. Walter spent his whole life working with his father, and then later on working for himself. I remember when we used to go to Hill House together until I went away to prep school my senior year. But through the coaches down at the Hill House, recognized that he would make a heck of a good football player. He was a little bow-legged and strong and big, and he wouldn't go for it. He said, "Nope, he worked for his father every day of his life that his father was alive, and worked for himself virtually every day of his life."
He was talking about the milk cans,
Oh,
and we were
right.
talking about how heavy those were,
Yeah.
and you have to be pretty strong to lift those.
Yeah, he actually, one of my early Woodruffs was what we call an Indian agent in town for Orange, back in the 16s or 17s. And I presume that was one of the reasons why we ended up owning a lot of land in town. There must have been, because Walter's farm was originally part of the Woodruff land volume situation. And I miss speaking of it to you. When did that happen? After I got out of the Army, yes. I worked for a short while for Tommy Wright. Tommy Wright was a hell of a wonderful fellow, a wonderful, wonderful fellow. And we had a few partnerships together on one shopping center, one lot subdivision we built. He was a good man, and I've always missed him since day one. He was very honest and very forthright and a wonderful guy. And I take my hat off to him every day as I go by his house. And I take my hat off to his daughter too, but yeah, but he was a good man. What have we left out, Brian? Hello, you awake?
Yeah, I'm here.
Got to keep an eye on these young kids.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, right.
But, you really, I appreciate so much because that piece of the Woodruff Seed Company was missing for us in getting history. And so I really appreciate you sharing that with us and also going through, just describing how people now are eating lovely sweet corn because of people like you and your parents coming up with better seed.
Better seed, yeah.
Yeah, so it's awesome. So no, I'm good. Anything else you want to share?
Well, I went out to Yakima, Washington when I was, I think, in 6th or 7th grade. because my father was out there growing a huge seed crop for to be sent to I think it was it Japan or no? No, we were at war with Japan. It wouldn't have been Japan, but we grew a lot of seed out there. And the problem was, when it was all said and done, there was a valley. There was a desert, so to speak, and you had irrigation. But the seed just would not germinate properly. You get good seed germinates about 85, 90, 95%. And as it goes down in the percentage, the quality deteriorates. And I remember for some reason, that seed did not germinate well. It was in the 20s. And we had a big contract to sell all that seed. And the guy came around to run the test, a government man. And I remember he said to my father, you know, for the right bribe, there's no better word for it, he would verify that the germination was 80 or 85%. And my father didn't go for it. He said, you know, we sold it as a 20% that it was. I forget, how could it be that what country we would say what is this? If I'm in the 7th grade, how old does that make me?
13, 12, 13.
Yeah.
12, yeah.
Yeah, but
And when was World War II over, so to speak?
45.
45?
And this was 42, 43? So we would have to be sending that seed to an ally. We wouldn't be sending it to Japan. I don't know who we sent it to or who bought it. But,
Interesting.
c'est la vie.
Sam,
I talked about Tommy. I talked about Walter. Sorry that he's gone, and I offer my condolences to his family. He was a very good man and an honest, forthright guy
Amen.
who worked his tail off all his life. Okay, I appreciate the interview, and I appreciate you dragging these things out of me. Thank you.
I appreciate you coming, and I know we do, definitely appreciate you joining this endeavor.
Okay.
Because it's really gonna be something that I think the future Orange-ites are going to definitely cherish, all these memories from so many people.
Yeah.
So
All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.